Hello, everybody, and welcome to our online insights. I'm Bonnie Halper. I write the weekly Startup One Stop newsletter, which is a first read of investors and the tech press and founders globally. But we have an international crowd here today. We always do. And I also work with founders. I'll put the link in the chat. And I also work with founders on their pitch decks because they don't know how to do them properly. They just don't. They fall in love with the bricks and with their executive summaries, and then I make introductions to strategic partners or investors where and when appropriate. I'm so excited to have Daria here today. Daria and I go way back. But first, I want to thank Joseph Katz for hosting us. Joseph, tell us about what you do.
Thank you, Bonnie. Welcome, everyone. My name is Joseph Katz. I'm a results-driven marketer, and I've worked in both corporate America and early-stage tech. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of marketing, and basically help companies go from unknown to well-known with a focus on growth marketing, go-to-marketing plans and strategies. And for fun, I co-host a podcast. I'll put all my info in the chat. Everyone should feel free to do the same as well. Looking forward to today's conversation.
So Daria, welcome. So it's up to you. Either we can go around the room and have the attendees briefly introduce themselves so you know who's in the room, or you can introduce yourself first and tell us about the NYC EDC, I was right, and what you do. It's up to you.
I'll just intro myself. I'll get into who EDC is in my presentation. So I'll just intro and then, yeah, would love to hear about everybody here. So I'm Daria Siegel. I've known Bonnie like 15 years. I'm not quite sure. I don't want to think about it too much. A long time. And I'm an urban planner by background is my skill set. I've been working on economic development in New York City most of my career. And Bonnie and I got to know each other when I worked at an organization called the Alliance for Downtown New York, which is a business improvement district for Lower Manhattan, really focused on diversifying the economy in the financial district, particularly coming out of some economic downturns when we were in a lot of trouble when we were purely financial services. And so got to really work closely with the technology industry and creative industries and attract them to come to Lower Manhattan. Today, I sit at the New York City Economic Development Corporation. I'll tell you more about that, but I lead our tech portfolio. And I loved how everyone was chatting about kind of urban space and green space. That's definitely in my wheelhouse. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the role EDC plays in some of that work. So I can kick it off, but Tina would maybe I'll just call on people if you could introduce yourself.
Thanks. My name is Tino Go. I'm the founder of a company. We're deglobalizing manufacturing by using underused manufacturing assets near the customer's location. Our beachhead product category is cabinetry. And so essentially we can save 40% on cabinetry. It's 100% custom. And our manufacturers are earning north of 70% margins because our process automation eliminates costs on both sides of the marketplace. And we're scaling starting in Atlanta, so I'm moving to Atlanta. Thanks.
Wow, thank you. So, Carrie Fox.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carrie Fox. My company is Stealth Pictures. I'm an executive producer and a writer, just beginning to dabble more and more in the tech world, actually working closely with Bonnie. She's amazing. If you ever need help on your decks, she's a great teacher, which has become a big process for me. Beyond that, I'm developing a project with the David Bowie estate called David Bowie Loves New York. I'm also working on a Broadway musical about the fintech world.
Thank you. Ian.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Ian Garmez. I'm based in Toronto. I'm currently COO of Virtual Film School, which is based in LA. We provide live online training for content creators, influencers, etc. And I'll post my details in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Andrea. Oh, you're muted right now, Andrea. I hope you're awake. I hope she did not up. We'll come back to Annie. Welcome once again.
Hi everyone, I'm Annie and currently working at the influencer marketing space. So I'm happy to chat any trends related to social commerce and nice to see everybody again.
Yes. Carol.
Hi, sorry. I'm Carol Donahue. I'm a data scientist located up in Toronto. I work on data analytics for mid-sized companies for operations rehabilitation. And in the startup space, I work on data science advisory for AI product integration.
Thank you. Craig.
Good morning, Joseph. Thank you for always including me. Bonnie is shy about talking about this, but she is become my manager for my AI art that you see behind me.
Awesome.
So again, if she gives you a call, please take it, because again, she's a big sponsor of mine of trying to get the word out. It's a lot of fun. What I do during the day, though, is that I've been a career banker for 25 years. As you see behind me, I work with Chase, and I lift businesses from small all the way up to lower middle market, with a specialty in family office, entertainment, Web3, and future tech. So thank you all. Fun to be with everyone.
Ah, thank you. Eugene.
Hi, I'm based in New York and working on an natural language processing patient record technology to provide insights. We're starting with oncology, and it's a technology out of Memorial Sloan Kettering Hospital, Cancer Hospital in New York City.
Yes, we know Memorial Sloan Kettering well. Randy, good to see you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Good to see you too. I'm Randy Seif. I'm based in New York, CEO and co-founder of Troon House. We are a global impact luxury brand launching later this year. We sit at the intersection of sustainability, luxury fashion, and technology, also with philanthropy. And our technology facilitates the whole business model, which is made to measure and on demand, right from your phone, plus customizable design options. And then it gets made and shipped within 2 weeks. And we also treat the planet as a stakeholder, developing all of our own proprietary fabrics, materials, and packaging, which allows us to reduce waste, overproduction, and returns within the fashion industry.
Thank you. Yoni.
Hi guys, my name is Yoni. I am a career COO, but a CEO for the last several years. I've taken part in a good deal of fundraising, including an IPO. And I run a company called Margin out of New York City, where we figured out we're working on a platform that automates business intelligence as it relates to what's happening in the world in real time. That's it.
Well, thank you. Patrick, welcome back.
Everyone, Patrick Fraley. I live in New York City. I work with Paddock Capital Markets, so we're a lower middle market investment bank. So we help with raising capital and debt, but most importantly, we help with folks that are thinking about major milestone events such as an exit in the form of a sale of a business. We love working with founder-backed businesses, and look forward to meeting everyone.
Thank you. Zarin.
Hello, hi. I'm based in Switzerland. I have a banking background, and currently I'm focused on strategic partnerships and business development, mainly in finance area and also in e-commerce.
Oh, thank you. I don't know if Andrea is able to introduce herself. I can tell you she's a recovering attorney and represents family offices and works with family offices and does that for them. So, Daria, take it away. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I don't think I did.
Okay, great. I'm just going to share my screen, so give me 1 second. Nice. All right, you can all see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I love this international audience, but I will caveat this is a very New York City centric presentation. My work is focused on the 5 boroughs of New York City. and whatever we can do to ensure the economy continues to grow in an equitable manner. So I am a vice president in our Innovation Industries Department at the New York City Economic Development Corporation. I'll tell you a little bit more about what that means. Here is EDC's mission statement. So EDC is a quasi-governmental agency. The mayor appoints our president and our board. However, we're an independent nonprofit. We do ladder up to the Deputy Mayor Maria Torres-Springer, who oversees housing and economic development and workforce. And I will tell you a little bit more about why we're quasi and why that puts us in a good position to make impact across the city. We kind of have four main buckets of our work. So we focus on strengthening business confidence in New York City. And so we really roll out the red carpet to attract new companies to come to New York City and try to make it easier for them to do business here. We actually build neighborhoods where people live, learn, work, and play. And so we're one of the agencies that work on rezonings in a lot of different neighborhoods. We actually built the High Line. So I know a lot of people are talking about the High Line. So a lot of the infrastructure projects around the city, we have our hands in, which is kind of the next bucket, which is delivering sustainable infrastructure. An example of that is we run the New York City ferry system as an example. So you might have thought that was the Department of Transportation. That's actually us, really focusing on making sure that the city is well connected and people have access to be able to get around. So we provide a lot of discounts for lower income New Yorkers to be able to ride the ferry system. And then the last bucket is the bucket I focus on, which is our innovation sectors with that focus on equity. So that's going to be the bulk of my presentation this morning. Just to give you a sense of what EDC does and the impact we have across the 5 boroughs, as I mentioned, we're quasi-governmental, and that's because we manage a lot of the city's real estate assets. So we are actually the largest landholder in New York City. We manage directly 225 properties and about 65 million square feet of real estate throughout the 5 boroughs. And so we get revenue off of these real estate holdings, which is what funds our work. So rather than a typical agency, which is funded by city taxpayer dollars, we are self-sustaining through these efforts. We do sometimes work with city funding, but majority of it is self-funded. We have a $9 billion capital budget. We are running over 400 different initiatives to grow the economy in New York City. And then we have specific budgets for particular innovation sectors, which I'll talk about a little bit more, but those include the life sciences industry as well as offshore wind, which we're really excited that we broke ground on what's going to be one of the largest offshore wind facilities in Brooklyn in Sunset Park. So 5 borough impact, a little bit of a novel kind of funding mechanism. And which allows us also to be a little bit more nimble than other city agencies because we're self-funded. And so we can act a little bit more quickly and also deliver on very long-term projects that aren't necessarily impacted by administration changes. So one of the big focuses of our work is catalyzing innovation. We'll focus on investing directly into local and diverse owned firms, particularly in our priority industries, which I'll talk about. We grow an investment network, so we work really closely with the venture capital industry, private equity, family offices, and others to ensure that we have a robust financial backbone here. And then, as I was talking about, growing and diversifying our innovation industries. In terms of the strengthening business confidence, just want you all to know we are the team that, or the agency that has the business development arm. So we're the ones that help companies grow and expand in New York City. We help people navigate incentives that are available as of right, or discretionary incentives. We help with people who are looking to hire, so connecting them with the local academic institutions to make sure it's easier when they open an office here to be able to set up their shop and have the employees that they need. We also help people with site selection, so finding the real estate that they need for their company and leveraging sometimes our real estate assets, but also, of course, we just want to focus on the 5 boroughs, and we work with the brokerage community really closely. So just wanted you to know this. We also help with retention. So if a company is thinking about leaving, we will work with them to hopefully keep them here and build an attractive package for them to be able to stay. I'd say a lot of these services are focused for a larger scale company. So usually 50 employees or more is sort of the trigger for this like concierge level support, but we work with companies of all stages to make sure like they are able to easily plug in and get set up here in New York. Of course, as the Economic Development Agency for the City of New York, we track closely the state of our economy, and we're really proud that the economy is quite strong right now. We recovered all of the private sector job loss from the COVID-19 well above and faster than what was anticipated. One of our favorite statistics is that of all the businesses that started, 1 in 7 of all small businesses in New York City started in the last year. So it is a real testament to the entrepreneurial nature of New York City. And so that's, of course, brick and mortar, but also startups and small stage companies. We also have an incredibly high labor force participation rate. It's actually the all-time high since that number started to be calculated at 62%. And of course, we continue to track office occupancy rates post-COVID and people returning to the office. And it's been hovering around 50%, which is 26% higher than when the mayor took office, which, of course, was in 2022. An exciting initiative that we launched about a year and a half ago was New New York. This was a joint initiative between the mayor and the governor on reimagining the future of New York City and our economy in a post-pandemic world. And in this report, there were 40 proposals on how to accomplish that, with a real focus on reimagining our commercial districts, which of course were hit the hardest by COVID, and really focusing on investments in the public realm and making them more 24/7 destinations. Real focus on transportation, making it easier for New Yorkers to get to work, and as well as generative inclusive future focus growth. So there's a real focus on housing, and the mayor has made a lot of inroads. I know there's a lot more to go, but the city of Yes was just recently approved, which will create 100K homes citywide. So a lot more to do there, but this was a really groundbreaking initiative that we're delivering on all of these recommendations. So let me get to where I kind of sit. So in the Innovation Industries Department, we're about a 40-person strong team that focuses on different industries that we believe New York City is competitively advantaged in, and that we're investing in to ensure they continue to grow here in the city and create good paying jobs. So those sectors include tech, which is the team that I lead, life sciences, and the green economy. So in tech, we're really proud that New York City today is the second largest tech ecosystem in the world, only behind the Bay Area. 15 years ago, when I started working in the sector, no one would have thought this is where we would be. And I'd say a lot of those investments that got us there were from the Bloomberg administration and investments EDC made, which I will talk more about. Tech is 7% of the city's total workforce, with over 330,000 employees, and it's really rivaling the financial services sector, which is pretty incredible.
It is.
We're also investing in the gaming industry, that we see a lot of opportunity, but mostly because film and media is so strong, and sound stages and other assets in New York, that we think New York can be more competitive in gaming, and that we have a lot of opportunity there. In the life sciences sector, we have a $1 billion investment in growing life sciences and becoming more competitive with the Boston area. And I'll be talking about a few of the initiatives that we're launching to support life sciences in New York City. The green economy as well, something we're very excited about, particularly with really strong and ambitious carbon emission targets and for the city, that we really need to catalyze climate tech solutions to help us meet some of those challenges and some of those goals that we have for the city. And then, of course, AI. Everybody is talking about AI. I'm actually working on an AI strategy for the city right now. But obviously, AI is cross-cutting across all of these industries, but we see New York City as very well positioned in this space. Of course, New York has been a leader, through financial services and hedge funds and others in AI and machine learning for a long time, combined with media and healthcare as well. But we're seeing, of course, more and more of us taking a share from the Bay Area around AI investment. And there are over 40,000 people with AI skills in the metro area, which is really exciting. We're seeing at times we actually have more job postings in AI in New York than the Bay Area actually does. So we want to continue to grow that and ensure everyone has access to adopting AI to help them grow their businesses. Just to give you a little bit more of a sense of some of our innovation work, I mentioned, we run the New York City Ferry, so we really think about clusters of different industries and how they are connected together via either the trains, but certainly the ferries as well. And we really see a lot of the innovation economy happening along the waterfront across the city. So Sunset Park, which is where we have a lot of our own real estate assets, we're really trying to establish as a green economy hub. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the funding we have going into that. Of course, at Governor's Island with a climate exchange that will be coming up. And then in the Brooklyn Tech Triangle, including the Brooklyn Navy Yard with New Lab and other investments over there. And then further to the north, Cornell Tech, which is an EDC project on Roosevelt Island. So just to give you a sense, like we're leveraging our assets along the waterfront, trying to create like this interconnected community along these innovation sectors. So on life sciences, I mentioned the $1 billion investment. This is one of our kind of Tony projects we have going on right now, which is the establishment of Science Park and Research Campus, also known as Spark. This is a 5-acre campus that we're redeveloping in Kips Bay. We actually have a $100 million RFP out right now to build for an anchor tenant to build this, to be in the base of this building. But this is a really novel and exciting initiative. We're really envisioning this as becoming like the Kendall Square of New York City. There'll be actually 2 different CUNY colleges that will be located on the site, all connected to healthcare and life sciences. So a 2-year program, a 4-year program, as well as a STEAM high school, all connected to that industry. And so we really want to bring in the private sector, research and development, and we'll be building this out in the next few years. So this is an investment from both the city and the state in creating this facility. On climate innovation, we're leveraging our asset, the Brooklyn Army Terminal in Sunset Park. We have an active RFP right now, and also another $100 million fund to help redevelop and create a climate innovation hub. And you can just see a little rendering over here, but this will be kind of like a new lab with a focus on climate that we're looking to establish. And that RFP will be closing in about a month, I believe in September. But we're really excited to leverage our real estate asset to create more of a hardware focus here in New York City. Additionally, we earlier in the year released our Green Economy Action Plan, which was the first time the green economy was defined in New York City and sized and forecasted for how it will grow. And so we forecast there'll be 400,000 jobs in the green economy by 2040. And the city has committed to 60 actions to help drive that, to accomplish that goal and ensure that it is grown equitably with a real focus on workforce development in the green economy. And then leveraging our real estate assets, we realized early stage tech startups and hardware companies really need a place to do proof of concept testing. And so we've opened up our real estate for piloting opportunities for early stage startups. Here you can see on the bottom right is our Brooklyn Army Terminal campus, where we allowed It's Electric to set up an EV charging station. They actually just recently raised a seed round of $6 million. And this was one of their first proof of concepts that they did in the city. Of course, they're hoping to win some EV charging contracts with the Department of Transportation. But this is a really great opportunity for hardware companies /software companies to test in a real world environment and also, really expose their technology to city government. So that's a really exciting opportunity that we will be rolling out new pilots each quarter. So then my work, I know I mentioned I lead our tech efforts. We have a few different sectors that we're particularly focused. Sector/tool. So I mentioned AI is one of our big ones that we're very focused on, that there'll be should be more news later this year around our efforts in AI. But we've also been investing in blockchain and Web3 for a long time in New York City, cybersecurity, particularly in workforce development for cybersecurity. Fintech, I know someone mentioned, I'm very curious about this Broadway fintech show, but New York is a capital of fintech and we want to see that continue to grow. I mentioned climate tech and then a huge opportunity, I think, around digital health in New York as well. And so New York, as I mentioned, we've come a long way. There's been over $200 billion invested via venture capital in New York City startups since 2011. That's more than London, Hong Kong, and Singapore combined, which is really, really incredible. So we want to continue to see that happen. We've been thrilled to see more and more VCs open up offices in New York. There are over 1,200 active VCs with offices in the city. And so want to see investment continue to grow here. So some of the projects that I run include an umbrella program called Venture Access NYC. So when EDC invests in sectors, we really think about where is there a gap that needs to be addressed. So tech is doing well in New York, but we know that there's still an issue around equity in the tech sector, and we need to make sure that the tech sector looks and feels like the rest of New York City. And so that's what Venture Access is just designed to do. There are 2 programs right now that are active as part of the Venture Access umbrella. The first is the Founder Fellowship, where we support underrepresented tech founders with services and accelerator services to help them grow their startups here in New York City. We've graduated over 160 fellow teams so far. 2/3 of those fellow teams are led by women and 80% are BIPOC led. We work with program operators, which include New Lab, Company Ventures, Chloe Capital, and Visible Hands for a 4-month-long cohorts to help them connect with investors, get the business support services that they need, help with revenue connections or introductions to clients. And so that's been a really incredible program. In the last cohort, we had 100 different startups go through it. In the period of the 4 months, they hired over 78 jobs. We saw the valuations collectively more than double of those companies, and we're seeing them raising capital, which is really incredible. And actually, our board just approved 3 more years of funding this program, and we'll be supporting 75 founders annually for the next 3 years. So we really want to continue to invest in our homegrown startups and see them succeed here in New York. The other side of the coin of that is the Venture Access Alliance. So of course, we want to support the founders, but we also need investors to be considering and building pipelines of underrepresented talent. We know that the numbers of folks, of women and BIPOC that are receiving venture capital is extraordinarily low, and the numbers keep getting worse. So I think it's something like 2% of venture capital is going to female-founded teams, 1% to Black teams. And so that's something we really are invested in changing. So the Alliance is a coalition of investors who want to work with us to really change that tide. And so we want to diversify VC. We want to see more people of color in the check writing seats, and we want to make sure that they're investing in diverse founders. So we have over 100 VCs that have signed on to join us in this effort. It's co-chaired by Fred Wilson at Union Square Ventures and Jared Tingle and Harlem Capital. You can see on the right our little kickoff event with the mayor. And so we'll be rolling out new programs as a collective across these investors in like the years ahead. We also have some support from Ford Foundation. I know someone is from LA, also the Annenberg Foundation, which is LA based. We've been working closely with them around their Pledge LA program and kind of building out something similar here on the East Coast. So a nice complement to what's going on in LA. On the blockchain front, one of the investments we made recently was establishing an Ethereum node at Queens College, at their tech incubator, which is really exciting that we really want to expose CUNY students to what the blockchain is and give them applied learning experiences. So we're connecting with industry on projects that they can use. We're having faculty use the Ethereum node as well to improve their curriculum, give students more hands-on experience. So CUNY is a real focus of ours when we think about workforce development. It's extraordinarily diverse. It looks like New York, and the numbers of people graduating with CS degrees from CUNY is really incredible. It's like more than all the private universities in New York City combined. So that's a big focus for us. And then I just want to mention like some of the other funding opportunities we have, that like these are tools in our tool belt that we use to support innovation across the city. So our Greenlight Innovation Fund is an open RFP that's a $50 million city capital opportunity to support innovation projects across the city. So this one's really exciting because it's not as prescriptive as many of our RFPs are. It's pretty open-ended for people to apply, with a focus on just innovation and commercialization for anything people want to do. So it's rolling, and we're looking to get this money out the door with a focus on our innovation sectors, so life sciences, robotics, climate tech, tech at large, biotech, et cetera. You should be hearing more soon. We opened this application earlier in the year, and until, we'll keep running this until the fund is depleted, essentially. And then another investment vehicle that we have is our Catalyst Fund. This is a $40 million fund, which is actually a fund of funds. So we're directly investing into the venture capital industry with looking for alignment in our impact objectives. So we're investing funds into other funds that have a focus on diverse entrepreneurship, that they have a focus on New York City, and they have a focus on our emerging sectors. We envision our distributions will be ranging from 1 million to 7 million into each fund. We just announced 2 deployments of this capital so far. So Harlem Capital actually received one of our first, and another was a debt fund. So this is rolling, a great way for us to get our money out the door, get some returns on investment as well, but support the innovation ecosystem in New York City. And then this was a really exciting project that was long in the making. This was a city ground lease actually on 14th Street at Irving Place, so right off Union Square. There used to be a PC Richards there. It was a 1-story PC Richards. And the story is a city employee was walking by and was like, how is there a 1-story building here? And looked it up and realized it was the city's real estate. And so we ended up writing an RFP to find a developer to build a new building focused on supporting the tech sector, and with a requirement for a tech training component within it. And so in November, this had its first groundbreaking, which you can see at the bottom right with the mayor cutting the ribbon. And so 85,000 square feet, the first 7 floors of it are run by Civic Hall, all focused on tech training and development for those that are underserved in the tech community. So low cost programming and free events for people to get connected with the tech sector. On the bottom right, you can see some of the partners who are running programs at that space, including LaGuardia Community College, Red Alpha. So those are actually both running cybersecurity programs. Stacks and Jewels is another one doing some green economy training on building automations. The Data School, which is a data visualization program, and more are coming into that space as a place where people can go and plug in to learn about the tech sector and get some skills. So that's 7 floors of the building. Above that is all private tenants. It's called Zero Irving. They're about 95% occupied, which is pretty incredible, again, in this post-COVID world, that this building did extraordinarily well in leasing once it opened. And so it's filled with tech companies. Sequoia Capital opened their first New York City office in this building. Melio, Game Changers, all tech companies. And we're really hoping to see synergies between the private tenants and what's going on at Civic Hall, so that they can get internships within the building, that they could potentially be hired, really creating an ecosystem within this building. So this was a investment by EDC in creating this building. We're the landlord, and we want to continue to see it grow. So encourage you, if you're in the city, to check that out. There are lots of events that happen in the space on a regular basis. So sorry, I spoke at you for quite some time. Here is my email if you have any questions. Also, we have a quarterly tech newsletter that I encourage you to scan the QR code and check that out, and sign up to get notified about future opportunities. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm happy to chat, get feedback and ideas, or answer any questions that you might have.
Sounds like you have nothing going on at work.
Yeah, no, we're not busy at all.
How big is the team?
Well, the agency as a whole is about 550 people.
Yeah.
I'd say about half of it focuses on our real estate holdings. I'm not on that real estate side. The innovation team is about 40 people, so quite small for the impact that we have across the city.
You mentioned that you're hiring, so you should mention
Yes,
it.
thank you, Bonnie. Yes, so I am hiring on my team currently. I'll send Bonnie the links to circulate to this group. They are junior roles, but people are impact oriented, interested in the tech sector. There's a project manager role, which is looking for 2 years of experience, and then a senior project manager role for about 3 to 4 years of experience. Okay, Yoni, I think you had your hand up first.
Thank you, Daria. I appreciate the time. Really, this is priceless for a lot of us. A more, I guess, let's call it a broader question. For those of us startup founders who are building something that is addressable to municipalities, economic development councils, addressable in the sense that it addresses the audiences that those economic development councils are helping. For us, we have, what we know to do is we can create an account on sam.gov and try to find stuff. And then we can go to individual city, RFP sites and try to find stuff.
Yeah.
And large corporations have teams of people who understand how to deal with the RFP and grant process and so on. And so what we've been trying to figure out is Miami specifically has a model that works for this, and that is that the mayor basically built himself an economic development council that's attached to his hip. It's a small private public-private, and us startup founders know that we can reach out to them, and they help push the paper through and all that kind of stuff. So the question ultimately, as a founder who's in this black box of New York bureaucracy, what's the best path?
Yeah.
And is there an opportunity maybe to create that kind of startup liaising economic development council for that very purpose?
Yeah, I totally hear you. It's super challenging, and I'd say New York City is probably one of the hardest cities to navigate compared to any other. I do want to mention one initiative I'm working on right now that's hoping to address that and it's super wonky, but it sounds like you're well aware of how this operation works. But so I'm working on some procurement reform right now to do something called challenge-based procurement, which is something that exists in California. But it will allow us to write less prescriptive RFPs. Right now, city government likes to pretend we know how to solve a challenge that we have, and we write exactly what we want. And usually, some of the incumbents, like big tech companies, get them, and they don't create opportunities for startups. So with challenge-based procurement, what we're going to allow to happen is writing a less prescriptive RFP where we talk about a challenge that we have and have it be open-ended for companies to respond with their solutions and how they would best address that challenge. And then what we would do is select several of them to run pilots. And then based on the success of that pilot, award off of the pilot. So right now, nothing like that exists in the city. It looks like it's passing. It should go through in September. And we're standing up what those first challenge-based procurements will be. And we're really hoping that will open the door for more startups to work with the city. There is always going to be a challenge, just to be totally transparent, around insurance requirements and just risk management for the city to work with early stage startups who transparently, right, might not exist in a year. Like that's a huge hurdle for the city of New York, but we're trying to make it easier. So sorry, that didn't exactly answer your question, but I just wanted you to hear about that.
No, that was great context. Yeah. Keep going.
And then I would say in terms of like an agency, it would be EDC. So because we're so nimble and connected with all the other agencies, we are happy to be that liaison and help people navigate the city and figure out who to speak with. I will also mention that the Office of Technology and Innovation, which is the city's tech procurement agency, has a new piloting program also where people can submit their solutions for them to be able to have a conversation with OTI and be considered for any piloting to solve a challenge of a different city agency. So OTI kind of works as a consultant to figure out tech solutions for other agencies. And so that form and that piloting opportunity could be really great exposure for startups to work with different agencies. But transparently, it's not easy. All our agencies, we do a lot of different things across the city, and they're very disjointed across different agencies. So, it's a challenge. So, but I can drop the links to the OTI testbed. It's called OTI testbed application. And then again, I'm always happy to be a point of contact for people, but we're really thinking about this as a real issue, especially our mayor is very tech forward. How do we have a central database of RFPs across the city? Even how do people find out about them? That's something we're definitely focusing on.
Yeah, so my follow-up questions are too long for this call. So I'll
feel free to email me.
Yeah, that's what I figured, but I would just say that I would like to volunteer myself, my network, and a lot of other resources to helping push that along. So let me be in touch with you on the side and we'll see what we can do.
That sounds great.
Awesome.
So I was going to also say, send me those links, Daria, and I'll include them in the newsletter. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll drop the OTI testbed into the chat too.
It's okay that I get your email from.
Yeah,
Jody?
I'll drop that in. Yeah, I can drop it in too, but and I'll send around the deck and that's in there. So.
Huge. Daria, thank you so much.
Of course, trying to be helpful. Zarin, you had your hand up, I think, for a while.
Yes, thank you. So you mentioned the real estate part for a long time. I know that's not your focus, but sometimes I'm also connected with the different developers or people sometimes interested in investing in real estate and US, UK, Europe are always very interesting destinations because, you know, they're developed safely, you know, safe perspective. And so how do you work? Do you guys have already investors for these funds? You're only looking at projects in New York. Are you open to other projects, or are you open to investors? And if so, what would be like the average return on these projects? Maybe this is not the focus of this call. Probably it's not. It's venture capital, but I don't know.
Sorry, I could try to be helpful. It's not like as you know, it's not my focus, so I'm not an expert on a real estate. I mean, most of when we're doing a building, we put out an RFP for developers to build the building. So like the Civic Hall project I was mentioning, like we put out an RFP for developers to build that, and they come with their own figuring out investment. And so REL, capital R, capital A, capital L, was the developer selected for that project, and they brought in their own investors to build that building, and then they pay us rent essentially. So another program just on the real estate front I want to mention is MCOR. M stands for Manhattan. It's a tax abatement program that we're running to support buildings, Class B and C buildings below 59th Street. This is really from the new New York report, or like post-COVID. Like we know that Class A office buildings are doing much better than B and C buildings. And so we're giving this tax abatement for buildings that are considering renovating their older infrastructure to become Class A, and freezing their property taxes for that. So we've made announcements on 2 buildings that have been awarded this opportunity, and we want to actually pair those buildings with innovation hubs. So running a co-working space in the base of the building, or some other innovation activity to animate the base, which is a focus of ours with the empty retail and things that are happening in some of our core business districts. So I can send that to you as well. But I'm sorry, I feel like I didn't answer your question very well, but I'm happy if you want to email me anything specific.
Sure, thank you very much. Thank you.
I don't know who is next. Maybe Craig?
Yes, Daria, thank you. So again, I'll have Bonnie contact you about my artwork being representative for your AI initiative, so I'll save time, and she'll ping you offline. I just want to compliment you, and I'm going to try to keep this as short-winded as possible, but I've just started to get involved in sustainability out here, right? And I just, as you saw, started watching things because I do on the Highline project, right, on PBS. I compliment you. Why is it, or how do you think it is that New York is so far ahead of Los Angeles when it comes to all the initiatives that you just outlined, right? Meaning, when you talk about Annenberg, they are such a small part, and not to get into it, but it's very difficult because even their public spaces that they create in many ways become limited access to actually the public, only because it's an Annenberg property. So what's interesting to me, when you talk about Highline and all these other things that you have, and someone like me that's getting involved, and now I'm going to a climate event, and I'm not exaggerating, for you folks in New York, I'll go to a room with 18 people in it, right? I mean, you've got a city the size of LA, and you've got sustainability groups of 18 or 20 or 24 people. Why is it that you think that New York is so far ahead of us, or would appear to be ahead of us, on all the things that you're doing and the wonderful work that you're able to do? What do you think it is?
Yeah, I don't know if there's one answer. I mean, one thing in terms of like climate or like our industry is like what we really benefit from, and why innovation takes off, is like how diverse our economy is, which is very different than a lot of other cities. Like I know LA has a lot going on, but like we have finance, we have healthcare, we have fashion, we have media, we have all of these things. And so, and when it comes to like technology, like they all need to be innovated and to be, kept up with, and to be competitive. And so that really creates a ton of opportunities. So a lot of our tech jobs are actually in like non-tech careers, like financial services and et cetera. So that diversity is like so helpful to our economy, and very different than a lot of other cities. I think a mechanism like EDC doesn't exist in a lot of other cities. This is quasi-governmental player.
That's what it
to be
is.
able to execute long-term visions and have outside funding that's not reliant on the city budget. So that's certainly a thing of it. I don't know LA politics super well, but I am sure there's many things to play involved in that too. But first of all, I just appreciate the credit. There's a lot more we can and should do. And there are a lot of things that other cities are more nimble in doing than we are. So we have, you know, we're always driving harder and like want to do better and learn best practices from other cities and support them as well. So sorry, again, I feel like I'm not answering anyone's questions well, but you know, we have some strategic advantages that we leverage. We have a toolkit at EDC that we can leverage. It's very unique. And we have a lot more to do.
Well, it's super cool. I look forward to connecting with you, and thanks for taking the time this morning.
Of course.
Congratulations on everything, on all your projects.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I think maybe Randy?
Yeah, hi, thank you. So two things. In listening to your presentation, which was super interesting and quite vast, and I listened to it through the lens of trying to find the red thread, which how Troon could become involved. And I think I found it, and just let me run it by you. You mentioned about creating these interconnected communities. And part of our go-to-market strategy is we align with different foundations and charities quarterly and sponsor large-scale events and artist collaborations through the sale of our luxury collections. And we have physical kiosks, like third-party kiosks that would stand in a brick and mortar retail. And we prioritize 4 different planet impact areas for these foundations that we align with. One is around soil and land. The second one is around our oceans. The third is wildlife. And the fourth is humanitarian. And so being able to create an event with you through these climate initiatives, one of these, any foundation really would align with those 4 buckets. We would create art pieces. One of my co-founders is a world-renowned painter. So that's how we create these art collaborations that donate back to these foundations and create limited edition capsules of fashion pieces that can also align and produce donations to these foundations as well. And then my second question was around the Greenlight Innovation Fund that you had mentioned and how to find out more about that.
Yeah, I can drop the link. I will caveat, I didn't say this, but it's designed to be led by a nonprofit. However, it can be a joint initiative as well. If it's a for-profit, it needs to be on city-owned land. If it's a nonprofit, it's pretty open-ended. But I can drop the link right now, and I can also share it with Bonnie,
Yes.
so you can share it.
Thank you.
Yes, I will. I was going to ask. We did ask.
Going to give you lots of links. All right, Eugene, I think you've been waiting patiently. Maybe you disappeared.
Hi.
Eugene?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Whoa. Hi, how are you? Okay, so we're involved in a number of areas of interest. So AI, ML, digital health, life sciences.
Yep.
So one thing is, and we're at a Memorial Sloan Kettering,
Right.
but working with other medical centers in New York, potentially accessing data of hospital, patient, and other data, and providing insights and potentially insights that also could align with some of the interests that were mentioned in terms of diversity and a key thing about data and health, as you probably know, is you really want diverse data that's really gonna apply to patients.
Totally. And that's why we think New York should be a hub for AI, is like as a more diverse, both for like who the developers are, right? They need to be more diverse, and then where the data is coming from.
And so you mentioned the fellowship thing, and whatever. So my question is, who to speak to, where to go, what are the resources to try to understand how to maneuver in this, these areas where I think things we're working on are very much aligned with
Totally. Well, I'm
Some of the
happy to
goals.
connect offline, and I can connect you with our life sciences team. We do have a life science advisory board, which is filled with a lot. Like I'm not sure if MSK is particularly on it, but we work with MSK, we work with Mount Sinai. We're actually talking to Health and Human Services right now around data from H&H and data warehousing, of course, keeping things all HIPAA compliant, but really excited about data and how can we create that, make it more open, so that the startup community can benefit from it and create more, you know, both digital health, but health equity kind of related startups. So certainly something we're thinking about and would be happy to connect you with the team to talk further.
Great, thank you, and I will follow up with you.
Awesome. I'm going to get a lot of emails from this
Yes,
call.
you are.
Trying to start people who haven't spoken. So Ian.
Do you already have, or are you considering making alliances with other tech cities?
We definitely do. Yeah, we do that. We do on the international side, we have a person dedicated to international partnerships, and we also work closely with the Mayor's Office of International Affairs, but we certainly work domestically as well. And so there's like the Global Cities Alliance we've been a part of. Like there have been a number of groups. I think that has to be strategically aligned with like a project or an initiative where it makes sense. But absolutely, and like I said, we love to share best practices and learn from other cities. So if you have any suggestions on things we should be doing, I would welcome that.
Yeah, I mean, this summer I'm working with a couple of startups in Barcelona. And I think, as a group, I think they would be thrilled to have the opportunity to work with you.
Yeah,
So-
and we also travel, not a ton, but occasionally to conferences like on Barcelona. Like we've always gone to the Smart City Expo and work closely with them on some of our smart city efforts. So absolutely. And as we go out, we want to be connecting with the right ecosystem folks in different cities and global communities.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.
Carrie. Yeah, Carrie.
Yeah, hi. My marquee project is David Bowie Loves New York.
I was like, I'm so curious about this. I'm not familiar.
David ushered in the concert for New York back in 2001, right after 9/11. So there's a pretty strong heritage with New York City and David Bowie. That said, I'd like to discuss with somebody your group and maybe others' participation in the project going forward. Would your office be the one to
We
begin a
probably
conversation?
wouldn't be. It might be the New York City Office of Tourism and Conventions potentially, or Cultural Affairs. But again, shoot me an email. God, I'm going to regret this, guys. But I can see who might make sense. We also, the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. There's a lot of different folks potentially, but I'm happy to try to help you wayfind.
Yeah, I've been trying to reach the Downtown Alliance, but
well, I can certainly help with the Downtown Alliance. That's easy. Yeah.
so far to no avail.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council also, who runs the River to River Festival. I think it's gone more dance, a little bit more avant-garde, but that might also be someone of interest.
Yeah, we're doing it right now. We're in discussions with PAC, the Perry Art Center as the venue.
Okay.
And it's good, and we're envisioning it as a ongoing series of cultural activities. The main part, the launch would be a experiential concert, exhibit, and a series of workshops. But we're seeing it as something that would be ongoing and be the first stop on a tour of the city.
Yeah, happy to help. I would just say for everyone, if you have a follow-up email, like if you could be as specific as you can, like, so Carrie, if you say the Downtown Alliance, so I can easily shoot that off.
Should they mention my name in the subject line, so you know that you met them at the Online Insights?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I try to read all my emails regardless, so I do my best. Be patient with me. Okay,
I mean,
Yoni.
Better or more direct than Downtown Alliance, I'm open to that too. That's just the first door.
Yeah, but that's a super easy one for me to do. So
yes, we know that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Slightly different direction. Just kind of curious how you and your specific office and your coworkers have taken to remote work. Are you in the office every day, or like how do you guys approach that?
I love this. This is an easy question for me to answer. We're hybrid. So post COVID, I think starting like 2021, we were required to come in 3 days a week. So it was sort of nice because you may have followed the city. The mayor was pretty strict about most city agencies had to be back full time, but because we're quasi, we were able to make up our own policies. So we've been on a 3-day in office policy since 2021. Mondays are required all in, so everybody is in on Mondays, and then the rest of it is just based on, everyone can make it what works for them. It's been great. I'm in more often than that. I'm probably in 4 days a week just because I also run around the city to events and meetings constantly, but yeah, it's a policy that works pretty well for us.
Amazing.
So next question.
Yeah, anyone?
You're just shooting off these answers. And
I don't know how helpful they are, but I try.
I'm sure they are. Questions, anybody? Here's your opportunity.
Patrick?
I'll bounce back with
Yeah.
another question otherwise.
Sure.
So with all the things that you're doing, right, and all of us coming at you from so many different directions, this may be hard, but what is your favorite initiative, right? It sounds like you've got your hands in so many things.
Yeah.
What have you found to be the most interesting, or which is your, if you dare to say it, like, what is your favorite?
Yeah. Of my own, so I've also only been at EDC for 2.5 years. I will say it was a really interesting time to come in then because it was right at the top of the Adams administration. So to see that change, and then it was post-COVID. So it was really interesting to join the team. And to be totally honest, it was really like starting from scratch in a lot of ways because a lot of our funding and even our human resources were all redirected to COVID relief. And so a lot of the projects that were going on were put on pause because of COVID. And so it was really building up a brand new portfolio and a strategy for what we would focus on and what we would try to do. So that was really interesting. And I'm just proud of how far we've gotten in this 2.5 years. But in terms of projects on my portfolio, the Founder Fellowship is probably one of the top ones for me and for honestly the agency as a whole. We're in the weeds constantly. We're government, we're bureaucratic. I'm working on contracts, like legal stuff, like, in the weeds. And then when you do something like the Founder Fellowship, where it directly impacts people and people that I meet and I see how it's impacted them, like it is just so rewarding. And it's sometimes so hard to take that big picture view. I'm just like working on the details and getting the approvals and doing all those things. And so meeting everybody and seeing how successful they've been as a result of this program is super impactful to me. I'm just trying to think on like maybe the other side of the house. There's like so many interesting products. Like there's Kingsbridge Armory is something I'm really interested in. So this is one of the largest armories in the country, located in the Bronx, and it's under EDC jurisdiction. We've been trying to figure out what to do with it. There was an RFP that went out. It will go to a private developer to build something, but we did a lot of community engagement on that project to make sure, because in past administrations, when this has moved forward, the community has been against some of the proposals and it never got off the ground as a result. So really trying to work with the community to build something that will be impactful and create economic development in the local neighborhood. So more to come on that, but it's so cool to think about an old building like that, an armory that's been sitting vacant. It's pretty decrepit. Right now it's just used for like movie shoots. That's how we get revenue off of it, but it's just sitting there and it's a huge opportunity for the neighborhood and for New York City. So I'm not involved in that, but it's super interesting to me as an urban planner to like see how like adaptive reuse happens, community impact, all those types of things.
I was going to ask you for the link for the Founder Fellowship as well.
Yeah, sure. And for the Founder Fellowship, our applications for the next round will open in October. So, but you can also sign up to get notified when they go live. Patrick, you had a question?
I did. Let me lower my hand. Yeah, so I've lived in New York for 11 years. And obviously since the pandemic, things have changed significantly. Riding on the subway on Monday and Friday is basically empty at this point. So I was curious as to how, when you think about opportunities for the EDC for New York City, does it have to be businesses that have physical offices here, that have people that work here? Because or people that just live here and work remotely and maybe they're based somewhere else. It's getting trickier now, I would think. How do you all think about that? And
Yeah, I
supporting New
mean,
York?
I think about it a lot. There's not an easy answer to it. I think historically economic development work is tracked. Like KPIs are about like real estate and things like that. Incentives that are available are all tied to real estate. And that's really, really tough in this like digital world that we're in. And the state is the one that manages like the incentives. And so we have a lot of conversations with them, but like, how do you then, you know, I don't know that there's another mechanism to really think about how you tie incentives if it's not tied to real estate. I think we've benefited a lot by the hybrid world, to be honest. Like there was a report from Signal Fire recently that more and more San Francisco technologists are relocating to New York City than any other city. And it's because people just want to be here. And so we're very competitive because of that. We need to focus on quality of life issues, which is hard. It's not all in our purview, affordable housing being probably number one. And so young people want to be here. I think our challenge is thinking about mid-career talent. Like when you have a family, I don't know about you, Patrick, but like a lot of people leave the city because it's so hard to be here. And so, and the affordability crisis around, you know, and apartments and all those sorts of things. So I think that's something we really do think about is like, how do we make sure that this is an equitable place for people to live, like of all family sizes and all those sorts of things. So I think there's just more to be done, but it's really challenging on the remote work kind of aspect. So, and which is why we're investing in the public realm too. I know someone was talking about, I'm like, who was it? About LA and parks and nobody uses like, right? Like those are our backyards and those are things that impact our quality of life here. And so like making sure, and of course it's challenging, we're in a tough budget situation. The mayor cut some of the budget to Parks Department, but those are the things I think we really need to focus on to have a more competitive economy for people to be able to live here. So.
Yeah, I you know, I have a 3-year-old, and so I'm in that group of folks that are not single and just moving here because it's exciting, which I felt that there's a lot of folks that I feel like have done exactly what you said. They're working remotely in the city because it's someplace they've always wanted to live.
Yeah.
But then as a guy with a wife and a kid, it's the folks have moved out. The school district we're in, we've heard that the number of kids that were at the public school has gone down significantly.
Yeah.
Just because families have moved out. So, you know, getting more people into the city where it's more affordable is near and dear to my heart. So it's great to hear what you all are doing.
We're trying, you know, we're not a housing agency. We actually are building one of the largest affordable housing projects that's happened in, I think, over 50 years in Willets Point, where there's going to be an electric all electrified soccer stadium that we're building with a ton of affordable housing, which is going to be really exciting. But we need partnership from some like legislators, from so many other people to work on changing zoning to allow for more housing to be built, right? And like what we were trying to work on, like conversions of some office buildings to residential, which is a bit of a playbook from Lower Manhattan post 9/11. But we need to use all the tools in our toolkit to build as much housing as possible, as quickly as possible.
Well, I think y'all have been doing a great job. But a lot of people want to be here. They need to figure out a way to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks.
You know, I was just reading that in Austin, where of course people are moving, big tech hub, they just built a tiny housing community. You must have seen that, which I know New York City real estate is well laid out differently. We go up, not out.
Right.
Different kind of challenge. Although I want to personally thank you for the highline.
Ian.
Yeah, you mentioned that you get support from, you know, the Ford Foundation, Annenberg Foundation. What is your process for getting that kind of support? I mean, Annenberg, they're notorious for taking a long time to make a decision. I don't know if that was your experience, but how do you get these organizations?
Yeah. I mean, most of our philanthropic funding is pretty small, to be honest. It's project by project. I have found I know we're being recorded. We're not super strategic on philanthropy, which I think we could do a better job of, and then we would be able to secure more of it. It seems to be a bit relationship driven and project driven, and then it's sometimes just like a little bit of money that they have some flexibility on at the end of their fiscal year, more than something that's really significant to move the needle. But sometimes even just having their association, we can leverage to support private investment or something else. So it's not a big chunk of change.
Oh, okay.
I think there's an opportunity to do more. I would say on other sources of revenue, like grants is something. So federal, with the IRA, with CHIPS, all those sorts of things. Like we have a grants team. We worked actively to try to get funding from federal government to focus on New York City as much as possible. So we certainly think about all the different buckets, but philanthropy is probably one of the smaller ones.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And in terms of slowness, I mean, we're super slow, so as government, as fast as we try to be and better than we are than many, we're pretty accustomed to that. But it helps that we are a nonprofit. And then the city of New York also has the Mayor's Fund, which is a nonprofit, which is the other vehicle to make philanthropic donations too.
Right. Thanks.
Anyone else? I love being quizzed at 9:30 in the morning.
A plus.
I knew you. I'm sorry about that. I was asking if there were any other questions. This is your opportunity. Even if you have a very specific question about your own startup, please feel free.
Well, I'll just add. So, what is your biggest challenge right now?
Oh man. I mean, the biggest project I have, and let's call it an opportunity just to be annoying, is AI, like what we should be doing in that space to ensure that New York City is capitalizing on that opportunity. There's not a straightforward answer to that, and it's evolving so quickly too. So like even we're thinking about workforce development, we need to be training New Yorkers on AI, whether it's technical or not, so that like we're thinking about the jobs that are potentially going to be displaced in New York. Actually, that number is quite high because we have so much like clerical office work, which is like the most exposed to AI. And we need to think about how we're training those people for future-oriented jobs. But it's evolving so quickly and so unknown that it's hard for me to identify exactly what we should be doing. And the fact that coupled with that, we're not that nimble, and I need to use our money wisely, like it's a challenging recipe. So that's something that keeps me up at night for sure, is like thinking particularly about AI and workforce development and the impacts that are gonna happen. But we're generally optimistic about it, but we're just, we recognize there are risks that come along with those opportunities, and we want to ensure that we're being smart. And then also like working with our partners at like Department of Education, right? Like we need to think about K through 12 exposure as well. And so there's a lot of different players involved to figure out emerging technology and how it impacts a city. Cool. Eugene's like, I want to talk about that.
Since you do have a big tech training initiative and you're talking about K through 12 and AI and everything else, are you working closely with the schools? I mean, we know that education system does not move quickly, and there's a challenge in and of itself. But
yeah, I mean, totally transparently, EDC historically does not work very much with the like K through 12 population. We mostly work with like CUNY and above, so young adults and above. But when you're talking about a sector like this, I think we need a holistic approach and thinking about it comprehensively. But we just don't have a historical precedent to do that so much. So hopefully we'll make some inroads. We'll work with Department of Education and other partners to, come up with a plan. But, the city, first thing that happened when ChatGPT came out is they blocked it in the city schools, right? Which like they then took that back. But we need more comprehensive strategies to think about emerging technology. Eugene, I'd love your thoughts.
I'm curious how does this kind of activity in New York City interact with New York State?
Yeah, good question. A lot of it's related to politics, as you can imagine. I'm very grateful in this administration, the mayor and the governor get along, which has not always been the case. And that leads to great partnership. Like it really makes a huge difference, that relationship. And so we partner very closely with our colleagues at Empire State Development, which is sort of our colleagues at the state level. They're the ones, just on keeping with the AI theme, they're the ones leading on the Empire AI initiative that the governor got passed, which is so incredible. And so, they of course have a much larger purview that they're focused on, but we ensure, close working relationships to make sure they're investing in New York City alongside us to make impact. They have their wallet is much larger than ours. They can create more impact. And so that relationship is really important. And we partner on a lot of these efforts together.
And the federal government?
I mean, it depends what it is. You know, I was reading some articles around Biden's legacy and how much New York has benefited. Like, we have gotten a considerable amount of funding from the federal government through IRA and other things related to transportation. When it comes to other areas, like for me, chips, you know, I applied for the Tech Hub's EDA program to establish New York City as a tech hub. We did not get funded. We did not win that proposal, and that's because there's a real focus on equity across the country and like building tech hubs in other cities, and they see New York as already very well positioned. So some funding when it comes to like tech projects or innovation work, they're really looking to other cities and states who aren't at the position that we're at. But at the same time, the grants have a real focus on diversity. And if you're talking about diversity, like, you need to talk about New York City. So it's a challenge. So I think it's just not, I don't have a universal answer. I think it depends on the pot of funding, what the project is for, but some things we've done well in other areas, it just doesn't seem like New York City is a priority. But it helps Senator Schumer, as a majority, like, we have the right politicians representing New York who can really help advocate for New York City. Ian?
Don't want to monopolize here, but I was very interested in what you said about the gaming sector, which is obviously very big and rapidly growing. Could you say a bit more about what your initiatives are there?
Yeah, we only recently launched our first one, which is we're funding NYU to build a gaming developer incubator. It hasn't gone live yet. I can send you a link to that announcement. And if that's something, you have expertise in, would love for you to get plugged in, but really excited to get that going and off the ground. That will be in partnership with the NYC Media Lab. But we actually just had a couple of gaming roundtables in the last couple of weeks that I participated in, really identifying where the gaps are that we need to fill. It's just super interesting. And there is a gaming tax credit that the state operates. We think it's not the best written incentive. And so we're thinking about advocating for some changes so it can be utilized better. We're also thinking about recruiting some larger gaming conferences to come to New York City to kind of raise the profile of New York as a gaming hub. But we actually are graduating, I don't know the numbers, like, there's a fair amount of gaming talent graduating from New York City universities, but unfortunately they're leaving for the West Coast because we don't have enough companies here. And so I think that's going to definitely be a focus. Of course, we want to continue to support workforce, but we need some attraction of more established like games and studios here. So I think we're still identifying the strategy around that, but a few, pieces are in place right now, and we're working with that ecosystem to identify, short-term and long-term goals.
Yeah, I mean, as an ex-Montrealer, I might suggest that you take a look at what's going on there. There's a lot of...
Yeah, I mean, your tax credits for gaming in Montreal come up often as like best in class. I mean, in Canada, it was AI in Canada too. Like, there's a lot we can learn. So
yeah, and our company does have something planned in the gaming area, so I'll definitely follow up with you.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you.
Annie?
Hi, Dara. Thanks for sharing. And in your deck, you also mentioned about the blockchain and Web3 programs. So I'm willing to know more about it. Other than CUNY's education program, what are the goals that we are setting for this year with you?
Yeah, we actually used to run, sticking with the theme of conferences, we used to run a blockchain week with CoinDesk previously. And unfortunately that moved to Austin, and it also went virtual during the pandemic, but we're thinking about bringing something like that back. And we're talking to partners around recreating a blockchain week to really celebrate growth of blockchain. I think, to be honest, like, it's challenging working in these emerging tech sectors when like blockchain's been a priority. We saw the decrease in funding to blockchain over the last few years. Like, they're just ebbing and flowing. And so we continue to keep a pulse on it. And it's exciting to see blockchain is starting to gain some more enthusiasm again. And so we want to continue doing something. So certainly a blockchain week or conference is something of interest. We used to run a blockchain center, which was really focused on education. I don't think we need to be doing the education, like, people need to learn how to work on the blockchain, but general education awareness, I don't think it needs to be our focus moving forward. But New York's been a Web3 hub. And so I think, honestly, we're just contemplating what else we should be doing. So there'll be a portfolio of more things to come, but nothing other than the blockchain week planned at the moment.
Thank you. bunch of people I can put you in touch with.
All
Daria.
right, Bonnie. Yeah, feel free. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no
love it.
problem.
Yeah,
Web3 blockchain, I'm very hooked in there, so happy to help.
great. All right, Patrick.
Yeah, so I've other economic development commissions that I've worked with, in particular, one was in the Virgin Islands. They offer significant tax advantages and incentives. How does the New York, and you may have touched on this, and apologies if I missed it, but
Oh, you're
you
fine.
know, how do you all, and if you do this, because I know this one particular area is particularly in need of a lot of development versus New York, which is probably not. I mean, people love New York for business.
Yeah.
So I was just curious if there's anything that you could point to in terms of tax advantages that as I'm talking to clients, I could say, hey, you could save a ton of money if you move to New York and from a tax perspective.
So I'd be happy. We have a business resource guide has a list of all the incentives. It's kind of a bit of a like laundry list of a lot of things that aren't applicable to everyone. It's very case by case, but happy to send that to you just as a reference document. There are a number of incentives available. They're usually as of right incentives, but they are often based, as we were talking about, on real estate and the location of that real estate. So it can be hard to carte blanche, say these are all the opportunities. A lot of them are tied to the outer boroughs or lower Manhattan. So there are a number of options for if a firm is taking real estate in the financial district or Long Island City or downtown Brooklyn, places like that. Transparently, like our incentives are not as competitive as like Texas or New Jersey, at times Connecticut. That's just not the market that we're in to be able to just throw incentives at companies to attract them here. We think we have a great case of like why you should be here, of like the incredible talent that's here, the access to customers, B2B, B2C, you know, all those sorts of things that I'm sure you know, but the incentives aren't, and tax abatements and things like that aren't going to be as competitive as like New Jersey and some other markets. So it's tough, but we do have things. And so we want to raise their profile. There are a few discretionary programs as well that the state manages also. So happy to send that guide to you, and we can answer any questions you have about any of the specific programs.
Great. And do they extend to federal tax as well?
The document has city, state, and federal programs listed in it.
Interesting. Thank you.
Sure.
I keep forgetting I mute. We have a few minutes left if there are any more questions. Or if there's some last points of encouragement or advice that you want to share with us, Daria.
Oh no, I love talking to people because I think one of our biggest challenges is honestly getting the word out about all the programs and offerings that we have. People don't necessarily realize or think of how the government is incentivizing and growing different sectors. So just appreciate you, one, taking the time to chat this morning, but also sharing opportunities with your networks, whether it's the Founder Fellowship or funding opportunities like the Fund of Funds or others. We just want to make sure people recognize that the city has these opportunities and works with us and considers us a partner. And then we're always open to collaboration, identifying where there are gaps of things we're not addressing. EDC, most of our work is focused on like a but-for argument, like but for EDC, this wouldn't happen. So as our justification for the investments that we make, if a private sector is going to go do something, like great, they should do that. But we have our toolkit that we leverage to grow industry and support economic development.
Any links you want to share with me that you'd like me to add to the newsletter? I'm happy to do that as well.
Yeah, thanks, Bonnie. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thanks again.
Thanks for having me, everyone. It was great meeting you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was fantastic. And if you want to share the your presentation, I'll send it out to you.
Yeah, I'll send you that and a bunch of other things, Bonnie. So.